Hey guys, Mark here from Mark's O Scale Trains. I wanted to do a quick video today on a project that I've been working on off and on for some time on several pieces of rolling stock in my fleet. And I'll show you what I'm doing to these. I'll probably do maybe a dozen pieces or so, just kind of as a test for the upcoming future layout. But I'll show you what I'm doing here next. So the project I've been working on with some of these pieces of rolling stock is converting them from the standard MTH Lionel lobster claw type coupler over to Kadee couplers. And I understand a lot of us in O scale, HO, and other scales are familiar with the Kadee Corporation. It's a phenomenal accessory and scale accessory to add to our rolling stock and our engines. And I really hope that the future layout will be able to accommodate and use these couplers on the layout. Now the future layout, I plan on having nothing less than an 072 curve, possibly an 080 curve, but it all depends. Definitely nothing less than an 072, so these should work, but it's going to be a test. I will do maybe a dozen or so cars and test that on the layout, but the detail and the scale realism that it brings to our hobby is definitely something that I would love to continue and not pass up. So outside of just the scale look of the Kadee couplers, the nice thing about Kadee couplers on O scale as well is that it brings the trains and the consists closer together, so you don't have that huge gap between rolling stock on your layout. And the conversions have been pretty easy. Some cars are a little more difficult than others. A lot of the newer cars have, they are Kadee compatible, so that it actually is easier to convert these. And it doesn't take a lot of time, but you want to make sure that most of your, or you want to make sure that your Kadee couplers are pretty level with each other. And you know, when you're using Kadee couplers as well, you do have to consider the curve radius that you're using on your layout, but you also have to make sure you have a pretty level track that you're running your trains on, so that the couplers do stay coupled. They don't have, I haven't had many problems using Kadee couplers in the past ever coming uncoupled. There are some things you have to do and tweak, but outside of that, it's worth the benefit of the realism these Kadee couplers offer. And in O scale, you know, we have to make a lot of exceptions in O scale, you know, especially when we've got a third rail running down the center of our track. We have to overlook that. So when it comes to Kadee couplers and putting them on our rolling stock, it's just a benefit to the realism that some of us are actually looking for. So if you're a fan of the scale detail that O scale will offer, this is a great option to upgrade your fleet with the Kadee couplers. Now you can also do scale wheels as well. That even takes it that next step further. And on a couple of these cars you see here, the Cumberland has scale wheels on it. I believe I got those from Atlas. The Suburban Propane to the left there has the standard MTH wheels with the large flange on them. I'll get some closer shots on that as well, but you'll get an idea of really what this can offer those of us who really kind of want to get as scale as possible, and this is one way of doing it. Now these are the two Kadee couplers that I primarily use for converting my rolling stock or my engines, and I've only converted two engines over to Kadee. One is an MTH, actually they're both MTH Premier engines that I converted, and honest to God, guys, boy, what a difference it makes. I know you've seen probably other guys do this, and you could probably really appreciate the difference it makes, but when you do it for yourself, yeah, it really makes that difference, and it looks great on the layout. But 740 and 743 are the two that I use. They have a few others. If you visit Kadee's site, you can find the different, I think there might be like 6 different types, and some come in a metal case, and some come with plastic. I guess they call them gearbox mounts. But these are the two that I've been using primarily for the rolling stock and the engines. Okay, so lighting is always an issue for me down here whenever I'm doing videos, and I just wanted to try to get a close-up on the couplers. From this angle, you can see how nicely, how close together actually the cars are, and I'll zoom over to the right here and show you a standard MTH coupler connection, but you can see how nice that is there with the spacing. It's really pretty close, or it's a lot closer than what we have with these guys over here. You can see that gap. There's your, people call them lobster claws, and it takes away a little bit of the realism if you are a fan of doing some scale on your layout, or try to get as scale as possible. But this is just a really nice detail. I've always liked this. So there's your couplers, and I do need to make some adjustments to a couple of the cars in regards to the heights, but overall they're not bad. And I'm going to go over here real quick and I'll show you. Here's another one that I'm working on. This is a MTH gondola that it's going to be converted with the coupler on the Kadee coupler on this end, and just for the time being I'm going to keep that lobster claw there so that I can run it behind some engines that I'm not currently converting over. And I really want to make sure that this is going to run well on the new layout with no issues before I start going and converting everything over to Kadee couplers. So it's just one of those things we'll have to pay attention to when we're constructing the new layout when that time comes, is just to make sure we've got level track, and the turning radius is going to be able to accept the Kadee couplers, because it does limit your radius you're using. Okay, what I'm attempting to show you here are the Atlas scale wheels. You can see the flange is pretty small on these guys, but boy does it make them look really good. And I'm going to go over here. Hopefully the light's not going to mess with me, but you can see the Suburban Propane tank car has that large flange wheel, and hopefully you can see the difference there and the difference it makes, providing your layout can run these, but really a sharp detail for these. And gonna give it a shot. Gonna see how it works. And finally, this here is a coupler gauge from Kadee. This is for O scale, and this will help you line up and keep all of your cars consistent in height, and that really helps you do the conversion so that all the heights of your couplers are pretty darn close. I use some micro fasteners, screws, and washers for converting these, and some of them are like these little guys here to hold on the gearboxes. Then there's some washers. These are from micro fasteners. So I use a bunch of little screws like this, or I keep an arsenal of them on hand to do conversions like this. But that definitely helps. And this is also available from Kadee, or if you have a local hobby store that carries these. That's the Kadee coupler gauge. Now on some pieces of rolling stock, just to get the gauge height, I use the gauge to get the height set right for these pieces of rolling stock. Hang on a second, let me just show you what I'm doing here. And I may need to use some Plastrux sheets depending on the thickness is needed to raise or lower the coupler. That's really easy to do. All of this is easy to do. I just cut out a little piece, and what I'll do is I'll clean up those edges. I'll paint it a flat black so that you really can't even tell, especially when the shell of the or the body of the rail cars on there. But this is something that I will do to bring the coupler down a little bit, just to match that height that I need. And as I mentioned, you know, every piece of rolling stock is slightly different, but simple enough to do. I can pull that off and just show you. This happens to be, I think, a short gearbox, but they've got a bunch of different ones. You just experiment with what you need. And that's that. And then once you get it back on and finished, you should be set and ready to go. But that's it for today's video. I just thought I'd share that. If have any questions, always leave a comment. It's always appreciated. I appreciate you guys watching these videos and communicating via YouTube. And until the next video, guys, have a good upcoming week, and we'll talk soon.